The Purtosaurus, also known as the Pew for short, is the largest playable dinosaur on the Legacy Isle. When it comes to sheer size and power, not a single other dinosaur on the whole roster comes close. The difference is so huge, it's almost ridiculous to even compare. It was left unfinished as a sandbox dino, and it was never balanced for survival. So in terms of gameplay, Purtosaurus comes with its own very unique set of advantages and disadvantages that we'll be taking a look at today. So join me as we look at the inner workings of the largest living presence in the game as we try to survive as it. As I logged in, I was hit with the realization that I was once again at Twins. Although today, I am not the one in danger, I am the danger. At least to anybody slow enough to let me catch them. For the most part though, your core experience of playing Pew will consist of being gawked at by other players from a distance like you're some sort of walking point of interest. But considering barely anybody plays this dinosaur, you kinda essentially are. Safe to say the 3 hours I experienced playing the Pew mainly consisted walking very slowly and being observed from a safe distance like some sort of contagious freak of nature. My first activity was to get acquainted with the lake at Twins, because I wanted to see how deep I could go, and it turns out even at the deepest point, my head poked out of the water, just like a giant turd asserting its dominance over a toilet bowl. Its height alone means that you can see for miles, whilst also being seen for miles. This means trying to mount an ambush on a Pew is borderline useless, and that's if anybody will even bother trying. This is because it can one-shot the majority of its attacks. Most will generally avoid you, as they can see or hear you coming from across the map. In regards to its attacks, it's the only one that has 3 actual variations to use at its disposal. It has a big stomp attack with a large area of effect at the front, a back kick attack that gets those pesky heel biters away, and if you sprint, you unlock a special tail attack also. The Pew's immense size means that not even apexes for the most part will touch you, and the ones that do take the risk will have a very long and drawn out fight ahead of them. You see, the Pew isn't actually invincible. While it is incredibly hard to kill thanks to its health pool and high damage, it actually has one weak spot, the back left leg. The back left leg has no attack, and it can be ridden by small dinosaurs to consistently do damage without risk of becoming a small brown stain on the ground. However, it still takes a long time even for a Rex, and all it takes is one slip up. So we've taken a look at some of the Pew's unique traits that assist it in survival in some way, but what are some of the setbacks? Well, it can't sit down, it can't swim, it's loud as hell, its eating and drinking mechanics is pure suffering, and its sprint is just terrible in more ways than one. In regards to sustaining itself, its height becomes its biggest setback, as due to its head being so high off the ground, it needs to submerge itself in the water to even drink. This means becoming a sea monster every time you're thirsty. As for food, some players have found ways to actually feed off bushes as a Pew, because no, you can't actually eat any trees. However, I am not one of those players that can feed off bushes, as no matter how hard I try, I cannot seem to find that sweet spot to trigger the prompt. It seems like my superior size is also the key to my downfall. I guess you could say that I'm suffering from success. Throughout the whole session, I attempted to eat using various different angles and approaches, with no luck. All I could do was watch my hunger drain down like a doomsday clock. On a side note though, if you, the viewer, know the secret to eating while playing this beast, then please drop it in the comments below so myself and others can learn from your sweaty gamer skills. When looking at the Pew's sprint mechanic, it's hardly even worth using. You hardly move any faster, and I would say it's barely even noticeable if it wasn't for the fact that it causes a server to have a seizure every time I do it. I don't know if it's just my PC, but every time I decided to move a little bit faster, it felt like I was ripping the fabric of time and space. You're probably wondering why this video is focusing more on everything about the Pew rather than the session of me trying to survive. That's because I didn't need to do much to survive as Pew. The only hardship I face is my own starvation. I survive by simply existing, and there's only so many angles I can show you of a Pew walking before the gameplay gets a little bit boring, and unfortunately nobody wanted beef with me either. Anyways, let's talk about travelling through water. As the Pew may not be able to swim, it can't exactly drown either. The Pew actually denies all existence of water in the Isle, and it will literally just walk along the seafloor if required. The reason I know this is because I thought drowning was my one true escape from this hellish existence, but it seems the Isle gods were way ahead of me and prevented me from the sweet release of death, leaving me to soak in the wonderful yellow void that lies under the water, but what do you expect from a version of a game that was abandoned in 2019? So instead, I sat and sulked in the still water just like I used to do as a kid after being caught trying to drink the bathwater. With my motivation to continue playing this beast at an all-time low, I decided to log out and come back once it's daytime, because if I'm going to be stuck in this miserable existence until I starve, I may as well do it in the sunshine for all to see. As the sun rose the next morning, I came to terms with the fact that the pew is essentially a walking time bomb of starvation, a prisoner to its own size and greed, and as poetic as that sounds, it doesn't make for much of an enjoyable existence. So of course, I did what I do best at the times of existential crisis, and I picked the flashiest spot to throw myself off a cliff, that being the radio tower. If I'm going to die, I wanted to be on my own terms, so before my hunger caught up with me, I made my way up the mountain. Once reaching the top, I enjoyed the view of the landscape which accommodated my painful existence. I took a moment to take it all in, and then very slowly sacrificed my body to the rocky cliffs below. So that was my spotlight video on the Pew. I'm sorry that the gameplay wasn't very intense, but Pew doesn't live a very intense existence. Despite this though, I hope I helped you learn something about this abandoned dinosaur, and if not, I hope you just found some enjoyment out of it anyway. As something as a little extra, here's some pictures a friend of mine shared of when they did a Pew event on the server. I can only imagine how loud and chaotic that must have been. I have already made plans to do a small Pew migration very soon, so keep an eye on the channel. Until then, I'll see you around, and hopefully the next dinosaur spotlight will be something a lot more faster.